Psalm 139 says this, your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were written all the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. Do you know this today? That the day of your death, the moment of your death is ordained by God. God has perfectly ordained the timing of your death for His plan, for His purposes, and for His glory. And I don't know about you, but I don't want one more day than what God has allotted for me. That God is sovereign over my birth, and He's sovereign over my death. So what we see here is that Jacob served the purposes of God in his generation as it was said of David, and then he fell asleep and he was gathered to his fathers. God took him home. Isn't this great to know, though, that God is sovereign over our death? Listen, as I was thinking about this, if God is not sovereign over my death, if my life, in fact, is not under the sovereign control of God, if my life is just left to circumstances and chance, then I'm not sure I'd ever leave the home for fear of what might get me. That I could have a little clot go into my lungs, it'd be over like that. I could drive home this afternoon, no telling what kinds of things that could happen to me to take me out. And I think I'd just live in constant fear of death. But the good news for the believer in Jesus Christ today is that God is sovereign over your life and your death. And in many ways, you're invincible until you have served the purposes of God in your generation. And so we are not a people, listen to me, in a world right now that is scared to death of death. We're to be a people who have a confident hope in a sovereign God who has ordained the day of our death. Now, this doesn't mean we're dumb. We don't put God to the test. We don't go jumping out in front of cars. But listen, we will not be afraid of death. Because death is not sovereign over my life. God is sovereign over my life. And the only thing that we need to be afraid of is not death. The only thing we need to be afraid of is not being faithful to God. And then let God be God. And let God determine the timing of our death.